So here we are playing God Kings. This is the third turn, and I've put some successors on the map on the board. We have the Kassites and the Egyptians each have a successor king. Both cases, I think that's a downgrade from their current king. I'm not sure. Well, yeah, Thutmose is the best king out there, I think. On top of that, though, we had the Mitanni actually got a slightly worse king, but they actually, not as a successor, he immediately comes on the map. Then, because there's this ability to trade tribute and wood points, I didn't want to do all the production at once. It's not absolutely clear here. For example, in the order of play, each player places his reinforcements according to turn order. That's just what happens. And if that's taken strictly, there's little or no opportunity to trade your tribute points and your wood points, because this is all part of the reinforcements procedure. I think that's kind of an unfortunate situation. Of course, you could have some that you picked up from cards that you traded at some other time, but I feel like the game intends for you to have this flexibility in trading. So I did that, and I calculated them all out at once, and it's kind of interesting what you see. Egypt is at 9-9. They're really potent right now. Babylonia is at 8-7. Okay, again, impressive. They're going to have, maybe 7 chariots that they can build here. The Hatti I haven't actually calculated. Oops. Okay, well, 1, 2. They don't have much. 3, 4. They have 6 tribute. And how much wood? 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like 5 wood. Not terribly potent. Certainly not enough to face the Egyptians numerically. The poor Mitanni are down even lower at 4 and 3. They're not going to be able to face the Babylonians. In part, this is because they let the Egyptians take much of their territory. But, they're in this position where it was, hey, face everyone or agree not to fight someone. Now, unfortunately, agreeing not to fight the Egyptians might have been a mistake. The Egyptians weren't all that potent, but we'll see how this works out. Anyway, we'll flesh things out and throw some counters on the board. I don't know if I've removed them. That's one thing that I've found to be kind of tricky in this game. When you don't have that many stacks. You have, maybe 3 stacks on the board for the most part. But before each turn, you have to remove, during this reinforcement phase, you have to remove all your mercenaries. Well, they're pretty easy to see. And all your chariots, which aren't so easy to see. In these big stacks, now obviously you could have them off board, but they're still kind of large piles of units. You have to kind of paw through them and see and make sure you don't have any chariots, because they all disappear at the beginning of the turn. Alright, well, I'll take care of my builds. I don't think there's going to be much trading going on. Everybody looks like they have about what they need in terms of parity, and they don't really want to say, yeah, I'll trade you a lot, of military ability in terms of giving you the tribute and the wood in exchange for something, like some territory that maybe you could hand off. But the diplomacy is very, very freewheeling in this, it looks like. All right, let's move on. So after production, we end up seeing that, first of all, the Egyptians had an extra point of wood they didn't want to use. They wanted to build a garrison instead of using evenly, just because they filled out all their armies. They had enough points. So that extra point of wood they gave to the Mitanni. They think the Mitanni being stronger, well, first of all, they feel like they won in that bargain and kind of want to make the Mitanni less unhappy out of the situation. But they also want to make the Mitanni a little stronger to face the Babylonians. And they've got quite a force here. The Babylonians have built up their own huge chariot army here. They've only got one division in there, so there's like 7 chariots in there. They have a lot of money to buy good units. But chariots can dissolve kind of quickly. Remember, they're a little less sturdy than the infantry. The Hatti are the only ones who broke down and bought any mercenaries. They didn't have the wood to match and build lots of chariots, so they ended up building a single mercenary as well. They also didn't have anywhere where they wanted to fortify. By the way, the one place where the garrison went was up here in the north. That leaves this Kadesh kind of in danger. There's a possibility that the Sumerians could march that way, but they might be tied up with the Mitanni. On the other hand, they could cut a deal with the Mitanni at this point and say, look, unleash me against Egypt, I'll cut into them, and then you can handle, trying to stabilize your own country. The problem with that, though, is the Mitanni are sitting on the borderland here. No matter what happens, that's, if there's a fight between Babylon and Egypt, that's not going to be theirs. Or, well, it could be because they only need 2. So if they could cut a deal that allows the Babylonians just to go to Ashtata, then they would get that. Alright, well, we're going to be moving on to the strategy card phase. Turn order's already selected. Let's roll. Well, the Egyptians got very unlucky and rolled a 1 for their successor, which means unless they had a way to cancel this, and it doesn't appear they do, they've just lost Thutmose and gotten Amenhotep II as their king. Now for card play, and yeah, I did it in the wrong order. I didn't realize. I forgot that I had a new king. The chance of that. I played the Royal Guard, which gave them an additional powerful unit. But this is going to put the Egyptians in a slightly more questionable situation than they were facing before. It looked like they were, outnumbered, but probably could handle themselves with Thutmose. With this leader, that being outnumbered is a lot scarier, actually. Okay, now we move on to the Mitanni. So the Mitanni slide down, grabbing some territory and positioning themselves against the Babylonians. And the Babylonians play a campaign in order to reinforce their king. And to bring this other warlord up, they want to gather all their forces in one place for a final showdown with Mitanni, I guess. I'm not sure. Anyway, that leaves us to the Hittites. And briefly, they just expanded their territory back here. They didn't want... They're afraid of the balance right now with Egypt. They know Egypt's against them, but they just don't want to trigger a fight yet. The important issue here, during that major campaign or whatever, would have been possible to move both armies into this space, but you do a complete... This is pretty common with the CDGs, and it makes a lot of sense in this time period because nobody could combine armies. You have to move an entire activation and then take care of any combats it resolves before you can move another one. How much sense does it make, though, in terms of... So, it's a concept that makes a lot of sense in terms of a campaign, but how much sense does it make in terms of... Oh, I don't know, these are 25-year turns. In terms of a 5-year period... Really, does this scale even make a lot of sense in a 5-year period? And that's kind of troublesome. I know that it's hard, you want to capture this kind of feeling of this whole broad span, but maybe a point-to-point movement system is not the correct answer. Or you need a lot less points, right? Make it big areas. I don't know. Anyway, that's just my thinking on it. Is it just doesn't... So something like Empires of the Middle Ages makes sense with 1-year cards. 5 years per card, essentially, for an action. Some of these campaigns moved a little faster than that. Some of them were actually pretty damn quick, where, the whole coast would basically convert in a period of 5 years. I know that they can't handle that may be in this design framework, but it's troublesome. That's all I have to say. So the Mittani also maneuvered their forces to get one big stack, and it's a powerful stack. And then the Kassites decided they wanted to attack anyway. They can't go forward without an attack, and it's no real great advantage defense in this. So they marched in here, managed to avoid getting intercepted, played Malediction of Marduk, and these, I don't know. You know, they try to be flavorful, but I don't know how much they really manage it. I don't feel like they do. Anyway, it causes an attrition roll. Very little damage was done. I think one unit was flipped over. They're going to play Demonic Invocations, which is going to cause a die roll modifier against the Mittani, but the Mittani countered with Illness of a God, making the God King, who's the leader for the Kassanites, obviously. Well, it affects a number of things. He can't intercept, avoid battle, and his battle rating is equal to 0 for the entire round. This is a hard card to use. I guess if you're approaching to attack or whatever, you can slap it down in addition. In this case, he just wants the 0 battle rating, modify, and take the same place as the Demonic Invocations. This is the big battle right now, and it could be quite vital. So we open things up with the Cav charge, of course, and we're going to see whether or not the Kassites can manage it. At this point, I believe they can only succeed on a 1. They have greater odds, but the battle ratings are approximately the same. Yeah, it looks to me like they can only succeed on a 1. Now, they were counting on their chariots being the big advantage. They had 7 of them. They don't. We're going to return the favor with the Hittites. Getting one of these off is such a value. They fail as well. Of course, it means they take their damage on the chariots, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because you build new chariots each turn, right? Okay. Point-wise, there's a lot. 12, 20, 28, 36, 40 for the Kassites, and I would guess the Mittani are not too different from that. 9, 27, 36, make it 35. And yeah, they're at the top of the rank too. Both of them are essentially at, well, not exactly. Okay, so the Hittites have Mittani have an extra point to allocate. They can either cancel out the Demonic Invocations, or they can reduce the damage that the Kassites cause as well. Either way, it's going to be an even. They're going to go for the greater damage. Hope to do more chariot hits on the Kassites. Oh, wait. No, they have more advantages than that. They have 2. They have 2 DRMs from their extra divisions. So they'll actually go to +2 on their own die roll. And they'll use the red die for whatever reason. So it's going to be 13 to 21. And the Kassites got defeated pretty majorly there. I'm going to allocate the damage, and then they're going to have to pull back. I think they came in from this direction. I think I neglected to say what the Egyptians did on their turn. We've got the retreat. Now, I've moved things into the boxes now. I'm finding trying to deal with them on the table was just becoming too difficult. The stacks are getting too big, and I have to break them up for battle anyway to look at what's in there. So this is just a convenience at this point. And it's good when a game provides that. Okay, for the Egyptians, they just spent a 1-point card to expand into here, and they went first. And then for the Hati, they spent the Royal Hunt card, a 1-point card, to grab a temporary victory point. And note also the Mitanni have their victory point from the battle. Okay, I guess that's it, and we'll move on to the third round. And I think we should load this one up.